Okay, so we've talked about incomplete dominance, we talked about codominance, and blood type is a neat example because it includes dominance and codominance, and it allows us to write some interesting questions because a lot of people know what their blood types are and are curious about what their kids' blood types are. So students tend to get interested in these, and they're kind of fun to write. So let's talk about blood for a bit. Your blood is not all liquid. Inside it, there are living cells called white cells, and there are other cells that are not technically alive but still very important that are your red blood cells, and these are the ones that carry oxygen. And they look like what they call a biconcave disc, which means they're like a donut, except there isn't exactly a hole in the middle, they're just very thin in the middle, and then they're fatter around the outside. And on the surface of your blood cells, of everybody's blood cells, there are little markers, special proteins, that identify the cell as one of yours. When your immune system bumps into a cell, can't it can't actually see, but it can feel the surface of a cell and feel for these markers, and from that it decides, is this a bacteria I need to destroy, or is it one of my body's own cells that I should leave alone because it's got a job to do? Your blood type tells us what markers your blood cells have on them, if any. And there are a few possibilities. Give me a second to draw some blood cells. We'll see what we can get here. Good. Okay. So there are a few different markers that you can have on your blood cells. One of them is called antigen A, or A antigen. It doesn't actually look like a letter A, but that's how I'm going to draw it. It's easy to recognize. Some people's blood cells have A antigen on them, and that's one of the ways that your body recognizes these cells. It finds antigens A and says, "Okay, yep, that's a marker that I recognize. This is one of my own cells. I will not attack this." If you have that marker and only that marker, then we say you have blood type A. It may not surprise you to hear that there's another antigen called B. Some people's blood cells have B antigen all over them. And in their system, antigen B is normal and okay, and if their immune system sees the B antigen and says, ah, yes, I recognize this is one of my own cells. If you only have the B antigen, you are blood type B. Two more things that can happen. Some people have both. Some people's cells have A antigen and B antigen. Both. Those people's blood is called AB. Blood type AB means they have the A antigen and also they have the B antigen. And finally, there are people who don't have either one. They have some other antigens on their blood cells, but they do not have antigen A or antigen B. And those people are what we call blood type O. I heard once that the O used to be a zero, as in no antigens, and then they changed it into an O because it made more sense for them all to be letters rather than A and B and then suddenly a number. But I've gone looking for that since to try to confirm it online, and I can't find it anymore. So maybe somebody made that up on me. But anyway, these are the four major human blood types. The letters that you have in your blood type tell what antigen markers do you have on your blood cells. Do you just have A? Do you just have B? Do you have both? Or do you not have either of those? So there's genetics behind this, and we better get into it because that's why we're talking about it. There are three alleles that control all this stuff. One of them is IA. This is the allele that makes you carry the A antigen. IA means you have A antigen on your cells. There is an IB allele, which causes you to have B antigen on your cells. I apologize, I don't know what the I stands for. Everybody uses it, but I've never been able to find a good reason for why they went with this. And there's a third allele, which is lowercase I, which is no antigen. And the way these interact is a little more complex, but you'll understand all the pieces. A and B are codominant. Remember what codominant means? We just talked about it. What does codominant do when you have two different traits like white and black? It doesn't give you a blend, it gives you both at once. So if you have IA, IB, this means you don't get some letter that's between A and B, you just get A and B at the same time. This is what blood type AB is. If your blood type is AB, it means you have both of these alleles. And codominant means, sure, I'll go over here and put some A's on the cells, you go over there and put some B's on the cells, and we'll both get what we want in places. Both of these alleles are dominant over the lowercase I, which means if he's saying, I don't think there should be any antigens, and he says, I think there should be A antigen, you're going to get A antigen. So either one of these gets to override the no antigen. Keeping up so far? I'm going to clear part of this and we'll start writing out some genotypes and talk about what those look like. There goes that. All right, so here's all the ways that you can have a human genetics for your blood type. I'll do them by blood. I'll do them by type because there's a few different ways to get each type. No, I don't want that. I'll put the A there, and then I'll put the B, and then I'll put the O. The only way to be type AB is to have the A antigen and the B antigen. So if your blood type is AB, we can tell you exactly what your genotype is. It's this. It's the only way it can possibly happen. If your blood type is A, there's two ways you could get that. You can have double A, two alleles saying let's put A antigen on, or you can have one allele saying I want A antigen, and another one saying I don't think we should have anything, but okay. In this case, they're both the same, so of course you get A antigen. In this case, the IA dominates, and you get A antigen another way. B is the same situation. You can get B antigen by being unanimous or homozygous on B, or you can have an IB and I don't think we should have anything, but whatever. Either one of these would give you blood type B. And there is only one way to get blood type O. That means you have to have 2 votes for let's not have anything. And those are all the possible genotypes for human blood. Because these are the 3 different allele combinations that you can have, this is called your ABO blood type. So if you ever see that term, it just means they're talking about whether you have A or B antigens or whether you have no antigens at all. There are a bunch of other elements to your blood type that they have to care about if they're doing an organ transplant or something like that. There are many more antigens to worry about, but these are the most important. These are the ones that determine if you can do a blood transfusion, and we'll talk about those in another lesson. So that's the basics of blood type and how you inherit it, and from that we'll get some interesting questions. We'll look at those soon.